Hello and welcome to the Turn 4 podcast. I am your host, Dan Maldonado. No relation to Martin Maldonado from the Houston Astros. If this is your first time listening, welcome. If you're a regular listener, welcome back. This podcast comes from two lifelong fans of IndyCar and other forms of motorsport. Before we get started, let me introduce you to my co-host, Tim Reiner. Hey, Timmy.
Hello, Dan.
How are you?
I am so good today. How about yourself?
I'm all right. Are you good today? Because you look like you got a little midlife crisis thing going on.
No, I'm actually doing just fine. It's a Monday and just doing my thing.
And are you wearing foundation?
I do not have foundation on today.
Today.
I'm glad exactly. I'm glad my complexion is looking good on camera.
It does.
Today.
It looks great. I got a little envy. For those of us just listening on the podcast, I go over to the YouTube channel because Tim mugged some kid at the skate park and took his hat, and he decided to wear it for today's podcast. Looks wonderful, Timmy. Good job.
Oh, thank you.
By the way,
this is a new look for me.
Yeah. This is not. It is a new look for you. It's called midlife crisis. The though you're a little late because most people don't live to be 94.
Yeah, I guess that would be, if I was at the midpoint, that's where I'd go.
But nonetheless,
I'm not going that long.
I'll be good for you and your midlife crisis.
So. Yeah, thank you.
Hey,
I'm enjoying it. I'm glad you noticed.
Yeah. Well,
it's my call for some help and some
you count on me to notice these things, right?
Yeah,
it's a call up for help. Hey, before we get going, got a couple of things from the YouTube channel. Guillermo, we got a new subscriber, so welcome, Guillermo. Appreciate you listening.
Oh, nice
watching. And Daniel, also a new YouTube watcher, has this comment, and I have to talk about this. Says, listen to the podcast for the second time. We appreciate that. You mentioned how great the racing was, then spent the next 4 minutes talking about crowd size at Texas. Come on, let's talk about racing, not crowd size or TV ratings. Fair point, Daniel. Fair point. Thanks for bringing that out. We do appreciate it. Crowd size only because this Texas race certainly could have been teetering on the brink of extinction, like some of the other IndyCar ovals, and so crowd size made it, I think, a little bit more of a story because I thought the crowd size looked pretty good, although Tim disagreed with that. And the racing was terrific. Hundreds of passes up and down the field, and really, I mean, Newgarden and Pato Award definitely had this thing going, but with all the number of yellows toward the end of this, it could have been anybody's game.
Mm-hmm.
Could have been anybody's game. And I think this would have been not only a terrific finish for Palou, which we did call out on what a terrific oval finish it was for Alex Palou, but had Grosjean not had his thing, he would have also been a very, very notable finisher in this race too. But I thought it was a wonderful race.
What about the crowd?
Thought the crowd was good. You did not.
I didn't see this comment, so this is all news to me as we're here on the podcast. So, I
Daniel, thanks for watching. Thanks for watching twice. And
hopefully,
right in, dude. Time. We'll always take the call. We'll always take the comments, good, bad, or otherwise.
Yeah,
we understand. So
we did get to the racing, though. We talked a lot about the racing. Maybe it was just a timing thing.
Sometimes we're a little discombobulated with it, but it's okay.
Maybe because somebody's having their midlife crisis. We're just all over the place. It's like
we'll talk about it off camera, Tim. We'll have a production meeting. We'll talk about it.
All right. Let's do it.
And I'm not convinced that you're not wearing foundation. This is, of course, the Long Beach Grand Prix preview episode. But before we get into that, we do have an exciting partnership to announce. We are partnering with IndyCar1909.com to help deliver more content. We've made no secret of the fact that this is obviously not our full-time job. We have full-time jobs. We both travel with those jobs and, have outside interests that take us away from this. So as much as we've always wanted to bring greater content to our website, we've just never been able to do that. But being able to partner with Spencer Neff, who is the owner and editor and, writer of IndyCar1909.com, gives us an opportunity to deliver a little bit more content to our listeners, and then vice versa. Some of his visitors and the people that read his website regularly gets an opportunity to listen to you and I blather for about an hour every couple of weeks. So, hey, I would encourage you to take a look, IndyCar1909.com. We'll put the link in our show notes, and we'll have Spencer on at a future episode, getting a little bit more into the Indy 500, because that's certainly the sweet spot. He is a fountain of knowledge and information, and really just a passionate fan of IndyCar. So I think we'll enjoy this partnership.
Yeah, and I think he's going to be there for the whole month of May, is what I understood in talking to him. Yeah, which is that's commitment right there.
Bronze badge holder. I think he's a silver badge holder, which is even more incredible. So yeah.
Wow.
So
yeah, I'm excited as well. So all good stuff on that front. If you caught us on Twitter, you saw the announcement. If you didn't, check it out there. Like it if you would choose to. If not, just take a look at his website. And obviously we'll be doing things together in the future here. So happy about that, and looking forward to it.
Yeah, for sure. Hey, Tim, Long Beach, one of IndyCar's oldest and most successful races. In fact, during the time of the split, I would argue that on the Champ Cars side, this was their crown jewel event in the absence of the Indy 500. So just a couple of highlights, which I thought was interesting. Race started in 1975 as a Formula 5000 race. Obviously, that series doesn't exist. It's probably something Formula 2 or Formula 3 today, right? In 1976, only after 1 year, it became a Formula 1 event, also known as the U.S. Grand Prix. 1984 is when the first Champ IndyCar event was held. It is the largest event in the city of Long Beach, with over 200,000 in attendance over that race weekend. And in 2006, they opened the Motorsports Walk of Fame, inducting their inaugural inductees. Read your own notes, Daniel. Dan Gurney and Phil Hill were the inaugural inductees in 2006.
You know, I went, I was reading the notes, and I went online to see if I could find what this Walk of Fame is all about. And there's a website that's dedicated to it. No pictures of the Walk of Fame, that's what I was really looking for. But it ran through all the different inductees, and there's quite a few different ones. And I think last show you mentioned the two that will be inducted this year. So
Captain America and the Mayor of Hinchtown.
Yeah. But I saw the likes of Michael Andretti, Al Unser Jr., JPM, and others, Alex Zanardi, so on and so forth, that were in there.
Chip Ganassi Racing Team.
Yeah. There was a lot of different folks that were inducted, some crew chiefs it looked like, and things of that sort. So I don't know. I didn't even know this was a thing, but it is.
I think
so. I guess if you're going, check it out, or if you're in Long Beach, go down to the boardwalk and check it out.
Hey, I'd love to check that out. You know, my brother lived not too far from there for 10 years or more, and I always swore I would get to that and never went.
Yeah, and I was there 3 years ago and had breakfast with my niece, and I was right in Long Beach and didn't go down there. And whoops, I didn't know.
Yeah, didn't know. Timmy, I got a little trivia for you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I do. Look at you looking through the notes. You think I'm going to put the
trivia
in the
notes? What's going on here? Trivia, let's do it.
True or false? The great Mario Andretti has a win at Long Beach.
True, and I think it's in Formula 1.
True. Good job, Timmy.
Yeah.
True or false? Formula E has raced at Long Beach.
I'm going to say false.
Wrong. Formula E ran a modified version of the track that was only 1.3 miles and had 7 turns. First won by Nelson Piquet Jr. in 2015. They actually ran twice. And in 2016 was won by Lucas Di Grassi.
Interesting.
Very in that, why wouldn't you run with IndyCar?
Yeah, I don't know. What they do it the week after or something? They must have. It had to be around the same. It had to be
somewhere near there, right? Yeah.
They're not going to set the course up and then take it down and put the new course back up. So
right. I to me that would be a great support event for the IndyCar race.
Yeah. Formula E just came up in our family discussions about, you know, it's pretty cool, but I can't find a place to watch it. I don't know how to watch it. So if anybody knows, and I didn't do any research, but apparently they're racing in Portland, is my understanding. And I don't know what the date is of that race, but they're going to be in Portland. And I know we're trying to figure out if we can actually see it.
Cool. Let me know. We'll let the listeners know. Tim, who is known as King of the Beach?
Unser Jr.
Yes.
That's an easy one.
How many wins?
Is it 8? No. 6.
6.
All right.
Yep. 4 in a row from 88 to 91. That stunned me. Actually, that knocked me down. 88 to 91, 4 in a row.
Yep.
And then twice more in a row, 94 and 95 with Marble Team Penske.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
I remember watching. He was always dominant. So
he was always good there. Yeah.
Yeah, he was always beating everybody up over there, and just year after year, 4 years in a row. That's a lot.
Yeah, it is. It's amazing.
Wow.
Who has more wins, Tim, among the Andrettis? Mario, Michael, or little Marco?
It's got to be Michael.
It's got to be.
It's got to be.
Because it ain't. It's Mario with 4 wins. Mario has 1 win as an F1 driver and 3 wins as an IndyCar driver. Michael has 2 wins. Marco has none. Michael, notable though, Michael's first and last win came on the streets of Long Beach.
Oh, interesting. That's good trivia.
I thought so. Yeah, I like that one. So thanks for playing.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It was nowhere in the notes, so I had no idea this was coming. Yeah. But it's always fun to play.
That is always fun to play. Getting on to Long Beach in terms of our picks and what we're looking for on this thing, Andretti Autosport was very, very strong at St. Pete. I think it'd be hard to pick against them. I think it would be hard to pick against Arrow McLaren as well. But who do you have for pole, win, and dark horse? And then I want to know what you're watching.
So I got Pato earning the pole. I think he's going to earn the pole. Arrow's been super strong, as you mentioned, over the last 2 races. He's finished second in the last 2 races. Hasn't been as strong in qualifying, but not bad. And I have for the win, I've got Alex Palou. I think he's going to win this. I think Ganassi's going to get their first win of the season. I think Pato's still a favorite.
Second win of the season for Ganassi.
Second, yes, because Marcus Ericsson.
Ericsson, yep.
So that's who I have. A dark horse for me, I'm still going to go with Kyle Kirkwood. It's the one that I think is going to come together here, and they're going to have a good result, and folks could be surprised by this. I know the first 2 races haven't been very good, but I think they're on the cusp, maybe. And then I'm curious, what I'm watching for is, and maybe this isn't something to watch for, but Penske, are they going to continue just to steamroll the field? I call it steamroll the field, just be as good as they've always been. And I think the other thing is Arrow the other thing I want to see is Arrow going to be as good as Ganassi and Penske and be in that top 3, which I think they're top 3, but can they crack the top 2?
Right. I like that, other than the Kirkwood thing, because it's making me wonder now if the skater kid you took that hat from either might have gotten a pop in before you took off with this hat. Good nonetheless. All good stuff, all good things. Yeah. As far as my picks, for pole, Colton Herta.
I think he can piece it together, right?
Streets, yeah, he can piece it together and do something smart.
He was a winner 2 years ago.
He was. The move on the box, though, still got me scratching my head, right? Taking Dad off the box. Not that I'm against it, but it still got me scratching my head a little bit. So Pole's Colton win remains my wishful thinking, Romain Grosjean. And then my dark horse, although I don't know you could really call it a dark horse given how strong Arrow McLaren has been, but I would say Felix Rosenqvist.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting one. You would probably pick him last out of the Arrow McLaren folks to finish up front, maybe? I don't know.
Okay, so let's go along with that line. I would say you would pick him last amongst Pato or Rossi. but a win out of Felix wouldn't necessarily surprise anybody too much. Anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess. I think if anybody from that team's going to win, it's maybe the other two, and I'm sure I'm going to get some hate mail for this, but
It's
that's
all
sort
right.
of how it's always been positioned over there, right? Felix was on his way out until the whole
Mhm.
thing didn't work with Palou. So, but he's shown some promise. He had the pole at Texas, didn't fare so well in the race, but that's an oval versus a street course here. So there's differences there. But I like all your picks. I don't think Grosjean's going to win it. He was second last year, though, so it's not out of the realm of possibilities. You got an
He-
Andretti kind of sweep going on here with
yeah.
pole and win, which is interesting. And they were super strong in St. Pete, and
Roman would have won that race had it not been for the tussle with Scotty Mack.
yeah, and they just fell on the sword like
Yeah.
individually. They just kind of tripped over themselves and
Yep.
took themselves out. So
And he took
you may
himself out
be
at Texas too.
You may be right on with where you're going here. I took Alex Palou because I picked Alex Palou in the original preseason stuff that we did
Oh yeah.
in order to figure out my overall standing. So
You
um,
want to explain that? Because I don't know that our listeners know that. Your methodology there.
yeah, so my methodology in picking who's going to be the winner of the championship is looking at each race and picking a winner out of each race and then tallying that up and going, okay, based on, my picks that come out from underneath this hat here. And then I kind of tally that up and do my top five and then my top 10 from there. So that's why I was stuck with it.
You and I both have Palou third.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, our top three is identical, by the way.
Yep. Yeah, that is true.
Yeah. Just keep coming back to that.
Yep.
The one I'm going to choke on is not putting Ericsson in the top 10, but you have him in there. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. What am I watching? Ray Hall, Letterman, Lanigan, right? Was Texas rock bottom?
Mm-hmm.
It was ugly.
Let's hope so.
It was ugly at Texas. I mean, we talked about it. Racing was good. Crowd was good. Ray Hall, Letterman, Lanigan racing was bad. There was no other way to spin that, right? I mean, no other way to spin that. If that's rock bottom for them, then they should be able to rebound and pull it together. And certainly on paper, it doesn't look like there's any shortage of horsepower with the capability of being able to do that. But on paper, they've had resources and they've had everything seemingly in hand over the last several years.
Yeah. On paper, everything should align and they should be up front, but it hasn't materialized. And even today, there was a tweet of a new livery, and Jack said, looks fast. And my response was going to be, looks can be deceiving, but I didn't want to go there.
Whose
But I
car
just
was
put
it?
on.
Was it Jack's?
It was Jack's new livery. I think it's for this weekend. And he
I
said
haven't
it
been
looked
on social
fast. And
media
I
today.
said, let's hope it is fast.
Yeah.
Because you guys have not been fast at all. So
Well,
they
I
got to
guess
figure it out
if you
between
can't be
now
fast,
and
might as well look fast. It's like my
I,
golf game, right? I got no game, but I got all kinds of gear.
yeah. Ooh. Yeah. Well, I guess it's okay to look the part, but you got to play the part too. And
That's right.
I agree with what you're looking to see here. It was Texas, their rock bottom. Let's all hope so for the sake of the team and sake of them continuing on.
Yeah. Yeah. Rough times out there. So, Long Beach, I always look forward to Long Beach. I think that from a pure racing standpoint, it always produces a pretty good race. It's bumpy, it was repaved in some spots, and our expectations being, well, my expectations, obviously, like you mentioned, Andretti is going to continue to be very, very strong on the street course, like they showed at St. Pete. I think Arrow McLaren will as well. Will Penske and Ganassi be there too? Yeah, I have no doubt of that. And I would probably give a slight edge to Ganassi over Penske in that particular situation. And but we'll see. A couple other things too is this is a full field, right? And it's going to get crowded fast. And if you've got a couple of yellow flags and you got a couple of bunch ups there, it could get ugly fast. Not Nashville ugly, but it could get ugly fast.
Yeah, you could see some of the same chaos that you saw in St. Pete happening here at Long Beach, just because it's similar in, track size, if you will, from a width perspective. And you've got a lot of different drivers and a lot of different cars all trying to vie for the same position. And you got that long run going down into turn one. And then
Mhm.
you go through the fountain area, which is super tight, and then it opens back up, and then you got the back straight into the turn. I don't know what it is. If I had to guess, it'd probably be 8,
Yep.
and so on and so forth. So there's a lot to happen on the track, and there's a lot of people that are trying to still prove themselves just in the third race of the season to get a good result. Particularly the Andretti folks who didn't do well at St. Pete after being so dominant, they're going to want
Yeah.
to probably keep their nose clean. I'm sure that's going to be the directive from Michael Andretti to say, we just need to get these cars across the finish line, and we have good enough
One
cars,
piece.
whether
Yep.
it's, whether it's, you know, this driver or that driver that wins. He's probably like, I don't care who wins, but let's just make sure we bring the cars home.
Yeah, one piece. It's interesting because we talk about the Andretti domination in street courses, but it hasn't necessarily translated to Shank, right? Meyer Shank, who has this technical alliance with Andretti Autosport, but
Hmm.
yet it didn't. I mean, Pagano and Castroneves, though neither one of them finished the first lap, but they weren't in a position like the Andretti team was, right?
Mm-mm.
Certainly not like Colton and Ramon were.
No.
So as you said, you're going to have guys out there who are going to be trying to catch up. Third race of the season, you start feeling like, oh man, I'm in a big time deficit here, and you're going to start pressing, or you're going to start doing some things. Both Castro Nevis and Pagano have success on this track, so
But yeah.
the pushing and pulling more out of it than necessary is not necessarily above them,
Hmm.
right?
And
And
if you recall last year, just even morning warm up, there was some issues with drivers getting a little um, antsy, if you will, and trying to get
yeah,
around other drivers. And Alia was pretty upset at that time about what was going on because I think they messed up their car on the morning warm up, and so they had some issues going into the race. So
yeah,
it's about keeping your nose clean. It's about making smart decisions, taking opportunities when you can take an opportunity, and having good pit stops and a strategy to get in and out of your pit stop. You look at Texas and what happened with Rossi. That was and Kyle Kirkwood. That was a situation that's sort of, what does it look like here at Long Beach? If anybody remembers the time that I think it was Junior and Michael Andretti hit in the pits, or maybe it was
hmm
one of the Penske's at the time. There can be some action on pit road too, so people got to just be smart.
yeah, it's going to be busy. And you mentioned Kirkwood. To me, he's definitely prone to that pushing, right? Which
Hmm.
is what I said in the last episode. We talked about the move with putting Brian Herta on that pit stand. And to me, I feel like it's to bring him along, right? Hey,
Hmm.
you belong here. You've been a champion everywhere you've been. You've been very successful. We just got to get you performing. It's 2 races in. It's just victim of circumstance, but we got to keep I need you to stay in a very positive headspace.
Yeah,
And
it's like the voice of reason, right?
yeah, yeah, exactly
Hmm.
right.
Hmm.
So that's what I'm looking for from that team specifically and I'm including Shank with that because the technical alliance, I can't help but do that. And but it'll be interesting, right? Because it's right now it's
Yep.
feast or famine on that team.
Yep. And
They have
how
a lot of
sweet would it
damage.
be if they made that move and Kyle Kirkwood comes up on top or comes up on the podium? All of what you did is all validated and
Yeah.
goes, was the right call.
And if you're Michael Andretti and the leadership there, I think it goes the same there too, right? Like, hey, we knew what we were doing. We moved Brian over to this pit stand.
Hmm. Yep.
So that's one thing there. I don't
That's
have
something to watch. That's
I
something
don't
definitely
have
to
that
watch.
much faith in Kirkwood this early in the season, and I think the first 2 races, yeah. I mean, the thing at Texas, I've got it as part of our random thoughts here, but it's still puzzling to me. I don't understand that whole move. I don't understand IndyCar trading that move the way they did, but that's going to play into it, right? Um, his big crash at St. Pete. I mean, that's where that is, man. I don't, I guess maybe the bar is kind of low on Devlin DeFrancesco's car. We expected like Kirkwood to come out and be a rock star right from the very beginning. And, right now he's selling CDs out of the trunk of his car. So he's got to do something, and I worry about young guys like that who have had great success elsewhere, that they start to press, and it just makes the situation worse.
Yep. I think it's just the reassurances needed for Kyle, and they'll get that together, and he'll have some good performances. You just can't keep, getting involved in different instances, which I don't think last week at Texas was his fault by any means, but I know there's others that have different thoughts on that.
Yeah. Got a few random thoughts.
All right, let's do it.
Anything more on Long Beach?
No, I'm looking forward to it. The weather looks awesome out there for the weekend, which, it's Southern California. I don't know how it can go wrong, but
yeah,
I'm anticipating a good crowd. We won't have to talk about the crowd, I don't think.
Nope.
So that'll be good. Racing. And the racing, it'll be excellent. IndyCar puts on a great show no matter where you're at. They are by far, in my opinion, the best series when it comes to competitiveness, and who knows who's going to win. Obviously, you can kind of go maybe from the top 3 teams, we'll call it, and the rest are there. But at the end of the day, anything can happen with this series, and so it'll be fun to watch, and I hope everybody gets a chance to check it out.
Yep. A few random thoughts here. Roger Penske, Michigan native, although I bet you he spends a lot of time in Indiana now. Roger Penske is number 905 on the world billionaire list, with an estimated net worth of $3.2 billion.
Wow.
That's a lot of Toyotas and truck rentals, man. Is it not?
It is, right? It's a lot.
I guess I knew, but I may have forgotten. They're a publicly traded company. Penske Corporation is.
Yeah. Did you buy some stock?
No.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe
I'm heavy in soda pop.
I see. Yes, you got a lot of stock in soda pop.
Yeah, I'm heavy in soda pop.
Yeah.
Linus Lundqvist impressed with his Texas test with Ray Hall, Letterman, Lanigan. Didn't see any times necessarily, and frankly, I don't want to keep beating this thing. But with Ray Hall, Letterman, Lanigan's weekend at Texas last week, I guess it's all relative.
How good of the times could have been? They couldn't have been that great.
Yeah. The one thing I will say is it's kind of a drag that Linus wasn't able to land a full-time place on the grid. He was last year's Indy Lights champion, very successful Indy Lights champion. The runner-up, of course, is full-time at Coyne with Stingray Robb, but Linus wasn't able to pull that together for a full-time ride this year. So I think, and Bobby Rahal has some quotes that he talked about, Jim Truman, and Jim Truman always liked to give people a shot, and he feels like he wants to give Linus a shot here too. Might see him in a car at, toward the end of the year. Would that be a 4th car, or would that be in place of an underperformer on that team?
Yeah, I saw that article too. That was interesting.
Yeah.
It was it was just interesting from the standpoint of almost like trying to give back and, pay it forward, whatever you want to call it, and do different things to help a different driver, get into the series. I think there's some other motives as well. I don't think it's all, hey, we just want to do this because we want to be nice. Obviously, we want to put the best product on the track, and we want to have the best drivers in our seats. So maybe it's an evaluation as well. But, it's a good spin. I'll put it that way. It's a good spin. And I'm sure it's partially true, but I don't think it's all true.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, part of it is pay it forward a little bit. I think part of it is maybe we just need a fresh set of eyes to take a look at our setups. Somebody who doesn't know any better, somebody who doesn't have any preconceived notions necessarily. Although I don't think an oval's the best place to do it, right? But as somebody to just come in and say, give me some feedback. What do you, to see how consistent it is across Graham and Jack and Christian, and see what they're validating, some of the things that they're trying to validate with respect to their setups and their engineering program.
Yeah. which, they're running flat around there, so I don't know how much input you can give. I think it's just a matter of you're not far off in IndyCar when you're off, right? You're not
They were
that
far
far
off.
out of the top speed because you're driving a spec car, but at the same time, your car can go off during a stint, which is what we saw. So maybe, and they ran quite a few laps. I think from what I read, it was almost a race distance that they did just to get some, get Linus, in the car, comfortable, and then maybe work on a few setup things and see if they could get some more speed and maybe just more consistency out of a stint. So who knows? It's an interesting, time, and it's an interesting sort of situation at RLL and what they're going to do going forward. And I think, this kind of goes to, giving people a chance, but also trying to figure out what's going wrong with the team.
Right. Also testing for Ray Letterman Lanigan Racing at Texas was Catherine Legg. And Catherine found herself on the oval in anticipation of her reintroduction to the Indy 500 after almost a decade, right?
Mm-hmm.
And putting her program together and going to be the fourth car at the Indy 500 this year. Not a lot of feedback there, right? Like I found that maybe I'm reading too far into that, but I feel like there was a whole lot more dialogue coming out of the Lundqvist test than there was out of Legg's test, and Legg's already in the ride, right? I mean, she's not being evaluated to be in the ride. She's got the ride. So I thought it was
think that's
interesting.
why,
that
right? Because there's no drama around that. It's just, we're trying to get her comfortable. She hasn't been in an IndyCar for how many years, Dan? I don't recall, but it's been quite a few.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so there wasn't a whole, and obviously nothing catastrophic happened on the track. So it was, we're going through the paces, making sure everybody was comfortable, making sure the seat works. I don't know, making sure that, and so they'll show up at Indy and hopefully have a decent ride.
Yeah. That's the anticipation, right? Is being able to show up at Indy, because I think, a good showing at Indy erases a lot of bad things throughout the rest of the season. That's just how it is, right? Indy gets the most attention.
Mm-hmm.
And last year, being mocked by my co-host for picking Graham as a potential winner at the 500, but I was taking into consideration what happened in 21, and Graham had a very strong race going. You and I were there, right? Just Sans family, right? It was just you and I.
Yeah, it was just
21?
you and I. Yep.
Yeah, and then Graham had a very strong run at the Indy 500. Had a pit mistake, no mistake of his own, right? They didn't get the wheel on, so came out, wheel came off, and kablamo, he was in the wall and game over. So
was he that good that year, though? I don't remember him being that good anyways.
But that's what makes
it was a strategy thing, I think, of when he pinted and when the race was going to end. And he was fast.
He was fast.
Okay.
So that's what made me feel like, okay, they're going to get it together in 22. And again, nowhere to be found. Yeah. And they got a pass for it because Penske was bad.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because Penske was bad again.
Yeah, they were.
So, nobody was watching Ray Letterman Lanigan scratching their heads there because everybody was looking at Penske going, oh my God, what happened?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Oh, successful team at the 500. Is Will going to make it? Like a couple years ago.
All three of them aren't on the front row. Remember that?
Exactly. Year? Yeah. So, that's where I picked Graham last year. And, I'm not picking Graham this year. Right. That's not the Honda team I'd be picking this year.
Do you recall your pick? I don't remember your pick.
I don't recall. No, it might have been Graham.
Yeah, it might have been.
Yeah, might have been Graham.
Well, that's why they race the races. We'll see. They just got to get their act together. And
dude, it could be anybody, right? I mean, Dario Franchitti has 3 wins at the Indy 500, all under yellow.
Mm-hmm.
So it could be anything.
Yeah.
Right. Anything can take you there.
Yep. That's why we like it so much. That's why fans like it so much, is because it could be anybody at any race.
Yet we watch Formula One and we know who's going to
win. We fast forward a little bit, but yeah,
we kind of watch it on DVR.
We do other things while the race is on.
Yeah. More Texas news. Racing was great. Crowd was good. IndyCar changed their ruling of the Kirkwood and Rossi incident from unsafe release to avoidable contact.
How's that avoidable?
If you ask Alexander Rossi on his show with Hinch, Off Track with Hinch and Rossi, he would tell you he agrees with you, Tim. First of all, IndyCar didn't tell him specifically. He found out via Jenna Fryer of the Associated Press, who tweeted it out that it was going to be changed. And second, he was taken aback by the idea, as were you, that this was unavoidable. Tim, there's no rear view mirror here. There's no rear view camera, right?
Yeah.
There's no little blinking light on the side mirror saying you got somebody approaching. His team released him. He pulled out and he made contact with Kirkwood, who was pitting from the outside lane, which apparently is a thing. Though you and I have been watching this thing for 30 years and didn't know that this was a thing.
Or 100 yards, or 100 feet you had to be on that inside lane. Who knows? I don't think there's any rule around it, honestly.
No.
You can't avoid that. If your crew tells you to go, you go, and you go to the fast lane because that's where you're supposed to go.
Yep.
And you're not turning your head like in a passenger car looking over your shoulder to see who's there. I know.
The halo, you got the screen, you're all plugged in, you got the Hans device on. You can't turn your head.
Yeah, I know.
You know,
I don't know. Maybe we should call Max Pappas and ask him why they changed the call.
I will not talk about any of that. Thanks, Max, for calling into the show. Hey, NASCAR news. Yeah, you heard that right. Stop me if you heard it last year. Bristol doesn't need to be a dirt track. I didn't watch that race, Tim. Did you?
I had it on. Yep.
You did?
Did I watch? Yeah. Well,
was it all right?
Sunday night, nothing else was going on, so I turned it on.
I know, but when did the Masters was on yesterday? Why weren't you watching the Masters?
Because the race went to like 9 o'clock at night, 9:30. Masters was
10
over
hours
with.
Of Bristol. Yeah.
Yeah. So I watched it after the Masters. It was
what did
not.
You think?
It was not enjoyable. But I'm addicted to anything that races. So. Just speaking of which, we were watching horse racing earlier in the day because we did that on Saturday because it was on. Anything that races, I'll watch. I agree. They don't need a dirt race. As I read and as I saw, these cars aren't made to run on dirt, so they don't do very well. There's a lot of cautions and caution after caution. Then you still have the stages that create cautions. And I think in this instant, it was red flags during the stages so they could do some work on the cars. It was a mess. It's gimmicky. And I like it that it's the roots, but I think as I saw and as I sort of read that maybe you need to put it on a true dirt track and not, ruin Bristol with it. Yeah.
I have a little bit of nostalgia, for things, not a lot, as you know, right? Like I'm okay to move on. But with that said, Bristol does not need to be a dirt track, period. I don't understand the thought process, nor do I understand the burning the cash that takes to build a dirt track. And then they're going to go dig it up because it's going to be run as a regular track in August.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Bristol to me though, is a bucket list event.
Yeah.
I've been to Bristol, Tennessee. We stayed at a vacation home in Abingdon, Virginia, which is right there at the corner of like Bristol, Tennessee and Bristol, Virginia. So I was, very, very close to the track. Wasn't there for race weekend, none of those times, but it's a bucket list item for me, bucket list trip. April, which is this new dirt track, would be the most ideal time for me to go because the August event is always in and around my wedding anniversary. It was on in the bar when we were there for my bachelor party 30 years or 26 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
that's cool.
Or 25 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
And, so I did convince my bride this year to go to Road America as our trip this year, right? In June. And we're going to spend a week in and around Milwaukee. We're going to have a great time because it's outdoorsy and we're outdoorsy. So we're going to enjoy that, take the camper and all that. And, but I don't think I would be able to convince my bride to go take her anniversary trip to Bristol to go watch the NASCAR event in August.
Yeah.
So bring it back
understand.
and I might consider going.
Yeah, it's always, they call it the last Coliseum or something.
Yeah.
Um, it looks pretty sweet to go. I've never been. I know some folks that have gone. They say it's a great time. People are great. The racing is fun just because you're on that, that short oval that's got crazy banking and, transitions from concrete, or maybe it's all concrete now, to asphalt and so on and so forth. So, hmm.
I used to send a
Well,
customer every year for like 4 years to that April Bristol race.
oh,
Used to get tickets, and I used to send a customer. Never
very
went with them.
nice.
Yeah, should have.
No, never went.
Yeah, never went. Should have. More NASCAR news, Timmy.
All right, let's do it. You just talked about them pouring bucket loads of money into pouring the dirt. And it looks like the France family has all the money to do it. So keep going.
Oh, yes, they do. Apparently, it's something sizzling with respect to the quote unquote business model and revenue sharing between the teams and the series itself. According to Kelly Crandall at racer.com, it's estimated the rights deal is worth $8.2 billion, more than twice
It's
Roger
TV
Penske's
rights,
net
right?
worth.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
However, 65% of the TV money goes to the racetracks. Let's put a pin in that. While race teams get about 25%, and the balance, about 10%, goes to NASCAR. Tim, how unfortunate is it? Unfortunate is it that NASCAR doesn't, through some sister entity, own any of these tracks? Oh, but wait. The France family, who own and operate NASCAR, also own and operate ISC, International Speedway Corporation, which is the entity that owns the following tracks: Watkins Glen, stay with me, don't turn us off. Watkins Glen, Talladega, Richmond, Phoenix, Michigan, Martinsville, Kansas, Homestead, Daytona, Darlington, Chicagoland, and Auto Club Speedway, formerly known as Fontana. Right?
Mm-hmm.
By my meathead math, that sounds like the France family's getting about 75% of that revenue split, right?
Because it's going to the tracks and they own the tracks.
Sure do.
Yeah. Interesting.
According to Curtis Polk, who's an investor with, along with Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin in the 2311 team. Yes, that Michael Jordan. 93% of the revenue, according to Curtis Polk, lies with the tracks and the France family, with the rest going to the teams. So he's saying it's 93-7. I'm saying it's 75-25.
Yeah, wow.
Right. Jeff Gordon, yes, that Jeff Gordon, vice chairman of Hendrick Motorsports, says the company loses money every year. Let's put a pin in that. Something has to obviously be done with revenue share based on this information. I'm not going to call this facts, right? This is what's been reported. It's probably pretty good, probably pretty close. I don't see why Curtis Polk would lie. Would he elaborate a little bit, or kind of embellish a little bit? Sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I don't want to call those facts. But let's take that apart a little bit. If that's the case, something's going to need to be done, right? Because you have either 75 or 90% of that revenue going to one entity,
Mm-hmm.
and the balance going to the teams. Does NASCAR and ISC and the France family have a lot of skin in the game? Absolutely, they do, and their name's on the building, right? Technically,
Mm-hmm.
and they're on a lot of these buildings. So are they entitled to a fair share of that profit? Absolutely. Profit is not a dirty word, nor is it the exclusive domain of whoever's name is on the building.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because something has to be done. Revenue's a little bit different today. I know in that same article, Joe Gibbs Racing says that they're full-time fundraising at this point, right? The full season sponsorships back in the days of Lowe's and Budweiser and Miller and those types of days are gone. Home Depot, those days are gone. So the teams do need to probably rely a little bit more on that revenue split with NASCAR. Without the teams, there certainly wouldn't be any product on TV.
Mm-hmm.
But without NASCAR putting together the events and putting up the money in the beginning to build these tracks and to promote the
Yeah.
events, there'd be no reason for Hendrick Motorsports to be dragging 4 cars out
Yep.
to a racetrack. So
Mm-hmm.
I first want to get your opinion on that.
I think something definitely needs to change if these are indeed what is happening. And I did hear that a lot of owners didn't show up to some meeting because I don't think the France family was going to be there, and they needed them at the table. So there was some
Yeah.
boycott of that meeting going on. Um, it's interesting when you just look at, and I don't know if this is the right word, but the amount of greed that sort of happens in all sorts of businesses and where the money goes and how it can be shared fairly with everybody. But I think at any point, someone's going to be feeling slighted. In this instance, it seems swayed obviously in one direction, and that's it. And I think the teams are feeling the hurt, as you mentioned, when it comes to sponsorship. And so they've now come together to say something needs to change for us to make a viable business decision to stay in this series and race with everybody. So they're just trying to come to the table. I think of it as a large OEM working with a union when it comes to negotiating union contracts and how that sort of comes together, and how, everybody needs to get their fair share because you can't have one without the other. And so I think they'll figure it out. They just got to negotiate it. And the France family, I think, is going to have to give up a little more than what they do now.
Yeah. I wish I had more time to prepare for this, and maybe I'll try to bring something, or maybe one of our listeners can chip in a couple of quick facts. I wonder what the NFL model looks like, because it's the same situation, right? It's stakeholders being the team owners, but also there's a revenue split in terms of what how that broadcast and those broadcast rights are distributed back to the teams. Right? Those teams get close to $300 million before they sell a ticket, before they sell a beer, before they sell a jersey. And all the jersey sales, by the way, are all split up amongst the teams too.
Yeah.
So in
So
the
it's
NFL,
right size for different size markets is what they've done.
Exactly.
In the NFL.
So
yeah.
does that model somehow lend itself to NASCAR? I don't know. I don't know if NASCAR, really wants to relinquish that kind of power.
You're right, but you can't have a series without teams. And if it causes enough angst, you run into a situation where you have teams that might defect and do something different.
Yeah. Similar to the NFL, though, I would suspect that for every one team that might be looking to close doors at NASCAR, there's probably 5 teams right behind them that'd be willing to buy the charter.
That's true.
I mean, look at Chip Ganassi. Right? Chip sold his team. It didn't just clean up and go. I mean, they sold it off to somebody, and Richard Petty is now a totally different entity with Jimmy Johnson and this legacy racing, and all this. And Michael Jordan with Curtis Polk, who's quoted in this article, saying that the revenue is very, very one-sided. They came in the sport too with Denny Hamlin. And let's face it, Denny Hamlin's been a driver in the series for a long, long time. He knows what's going on there, knew what to expect.
Yeah. At least you'd hope so.
So there's a lot of things that go on there. Brad Keselowski wanted to be a team owner with Penske, and Penske's deal doesn't really lend itself to that. And so he partnered out with Roush Fenway, and he moved over and onto the ownership side. He's been around a long time. He knows what he's getting himself into. Yeah. So there's something to be made there. Could it be more fair than that? Maybe, certainly, based on this.
Yeah.
But so let me take you back to this notion, right? Jeff Gordon says that his company, one of the most successful teams in NASCAR over the last decade, is losing money every year. You buy it?
I don't know how you could continue and lose money. I don't buy it.
I don't buy it at all. I think there's an accounting treatment, right? I'm not accusing them of anything, but to me, I don't know how you could say you're losing money there every year.
Yeah. Well, Yeah, if you look at the sponsorship that they have going on with Kyle Larson, right? It's
Hendricks, yeah,
Yeah, so I don't know if you count that as a loss because you're advertising your own brand.
maybe.
I don't know how that works. Well, we'll keep a close eye on this and see what sort of transpires.
2311 is Dr. Pepper money and Monster money and McDonald's
Yeah.
money and all that other stuff. I don't, are they losing money? It doesn't look like it.
No, it doesn't look like it, but
Michael Jordan
times.
could burn a few $1,000,000, and I don't think anybody would. I don't think he'd even realize.
Yeah,
But
that's
I don't
for
think he
sure.
would be getting into a business to lose money.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
And Jack Roush. I mean, Jack Roush's business in automotive, I can't imagine, is all that lucrative that he would be in racing as a hobby.
Well, I think if you go back to some of the kart years, some of these guys were in it that was their hobby, right? That was what they did, and that's how they spent their
They
extra
were
money
making
with
money though.
some.
Yeah.
I know, yeah. You're trying to break even. It'll be interesting if the NASCAR teams are just trying to break even these days and make a little. Hmm. I don't know. We'll
Yeah.
sort of see how it goes. I don't know how all this is going to play out at the end of the day.
Yeah. The only thing I know is I might start paying a little bit more attention to NASCAR if it gets a little bit juicier between them and these teams and this particular subject, right? I mean, could there be a tin top split on the horizon,
Hmm.
like the right kart IndyCar split?
Yeah. Never say never. It could happen.
That would be devastating to this series because where would they race? I just gave you what? I mean, how many tracks that they own? 1, 2, 3,
Yeah. Well, Kentucky
right?
Speedway's empty. They don't have any
13.
races.
Yeah, but don't they own it? Oh no, it's not on here.
No.
13 tracks. How would you replace 13 tracks? Where are you going to go?
Well, they have too many
You're going to go
races
to
anyways.
Texas 5 times, right? Charlotte 5 times,
Yeah. I don't know.
Milwaukee.
Yeah, I don't know.
God forbid Milwaukee. Oh my God, I keep hearing this Milwaukee
Milwaukee's
thing.
back on the list.
Yeah, we'll talk about it when I feel
I
like it.
saw that they want it back. It's something in the legislative. They're talking about it and trying to get IndyCar back. So we'll see.
I'm not there with that.
You're not there with it?
Well, no, I'm not. That's all I got. How about you, Timmy?
Yeah, I think the only thing I would add to today's show is that there appears to be a 34th entry for the Indy 500 that's taking
Potential.
place. Potential, yeah. So that's the latest there. In looking at this, I can't recall who it is, but I'm trying to figure it out. Dan, do you recall?
I don't. That's how much stock I put into it.
R.C. Enerson.
Yep.
Looks like he might
Him
be
and his
doing that with
dad.
his
Yep.
father. Yep.
Yep.
So that might bring some bumping,
Topping.
but we'd like to
Yeah.
see a few more.
Well,
That's
I'd
all I
like to see
got.
40, but it ain't going to happen until we get a third engine manufacturer.
Yeah, that is true.
You know,
I think we'll have
because
at least 35.
why would Honda put 2 more engines out there to bump themselves, and vice versa? Why would Chevy do the same thing?
Yeah, it's a good point.
Though if you're Chevy here, and I feel like I'm piling on them, and it is not where I'm at, but it's from an intense sense of fandom, right? Which is what we are. Okay. If you're Chevy and you're looking at Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan at Texas and their team, their year so far and their year last year, maybe you think, no, we might be able to bump one of the RLL cars out of there and get an extra Chevy in the field.
Yeah, you don't want to
Right?
bump another Chevy out,
You
but
don't want to
yeah,
bump
for
another
sure.
Chevy. You don't want to bunt Captain America.
No, don't want to do that. Well, we'll see how this shapes up. We're still, a month out to May, and then we'll see how this sort of plays in and how many entries we actually get out of this. But to your point, out from a strategic standpoint, from the manufacturers, they want to run any more cars than they have to. So
Nope.
33 is just fine for them.
Because they're losing money too. They're
Mm-hmm.
genuinely losing money on this. Tim, are we going anywhere for the month of May?
I thought we were going to the road course.
Are we? Did you confirm that?
I don't know.
Oh my God. Oh, now
I'll
it's
have to
I don't
confirm that with
know.
you. That was my understanding. I guess I got to see when that falls.
We had a
And
production meeting scheduled for Saturday. I thought we were going to cover all that stuff, but something obviously happened.
we did. I didn't show. I was a no-show to the production meeting. That was what on the
Wow.
streets of Detroit. How's the new track
Mhm.
shaping up in downtown
Don't know.
Detroit?
Didn't go. If you want to audition for co-host, please email me at danmaldo419@gmail.com or
He's ready to
turn45
replace
at
me.
gmail.com.
I just talked over your email address. No one
It's
can make
totally
it out
fine.
now.
Totally fine. You know how to reach me.
That's funny.
But I'm
Why didn't
excited
you
about
go?
it.
Hold
I want
on.
to
Why didn't
go.
you go?
I was busy. I had stuff to do. I rode and then I needed to get home
I didn't think you
because we were
rode.
hosting yesterday. Yeah, we were hosting yesterday. So I didn't want to leave my bride with everything to do. And
I
then,
see.
we had some other things to do.
So then
So
what
I
is
did
this production
ride.
meeting you're talking about? The ride?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I didn't make it. It was
Yeah. We're going to
cold.
ride. Oh, Lord. We're going to ride and then, be out of there. So we had a hard stop at 11 because a couple of guys that rode needed to be on their way home at 11 o'clock. So
I was at Costco while you were riding.
it's wonderful. I was
I
riding.
had to get my stuff together too.
Yep. Oh, well.
Oh, we'll do it another time.
Anybody interested in co-hosting a podcast?
Love it.
Love it.
I heard Dan's feelings by not going to ride.
Do you
with
like
him.
cycling? Are you, do you share any of these interests?
Oh man.
That's all I
Good
got.
stuff.
Hey, thanks for
All
listening as always. Be sure to engage with us on our social media channels. Wonderful engagement over the last couple of weeks. It's been great that the season's back because the engagement picks up and, these shows pick up and the listening and the energy behind putting some of these shows together definitely ramps up. So looking forward to Long Beach here in less than a week. And then we'll be right back here talking about it again in 1 week's time. So thanks for tuning in and listening, and we'll catch you in a week.
right. Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.